All right. All right, YouTube. So today we're going to do something a little bit different. And working on a 2007 Cadillac Escalade. It has an oil pan gasket leak. I'll show you here. It's got a nice leak up underneath of it. All oil, all underneath of it. The dealership actually told these people that they needed a rear main seal, and definitely did not need a rear main seal. And unfortunately, it's one of those things that technicians nowadays are scrutinized, and they do it to themselves because they recommend work that's really not needed. They could have got an oil pan, and in 4 hours or so worth of work, they could have got paid. But now I'm doing it for them. So I just wanted to let you guys know what I do, and this is how I do things. So let's see. Alright, so we just took out the splash shield up underneath of here just to kind of get it out of the way. We have a little bit more access to the oil pan. The first thing that you want to do is, I've already started doing it, but go ahead and empty out the oil since you know that you got to take the oil pan down. This is an all-wheel drive unit, so this is going to have the front differential that you actually have to remove in order to get the oil pan to drop down over top of the or underneath the crankshaft. So ultimately this is going to have to come out, and yeah, that's what we're going to be doing in the next hour, is getting this thing out of here. Unfortunately for them, the actually looks like their power steering rack is leaking too, but let them know later today if they want to take care of that while it's here or not. So this axle is actually super easy to get out. You literally have 4 bolts that connect it, and then you have the drive axles, the CV axles, that you got to take those loose. They're really easy. They're like little half shafts, so they just pop out once you unscrew the 6 bolts. This whole unit comes out. You got you have the drive shaft that you got to take out. Super easy. You just got to make sure you mark that stuff. If you don't mark it, a lot of times what the issues is that it'll cause a vibration because it wears in. So this isn't a used drive shaft that's been running on this thing. This thing's got 160 or 170,000 miles on it. So it's been running like that for a while. So you kind of want to put things back in the way that you took them out in some of these instances. Otherwise, it'll cause a vibration that you don't need to do. So, but we're going to go ahead and start with taking the drive shaft off, or at least loosen it so that it can pop out of the axle, so the axle can just come down. This cross member is going to have to possibly come down, I do believe, yeah, because of the steering rack. So that is going to be another thing. It may not have to. We'll see. See if it does or not. Don't worry, like, the easiest way to do things is always, like, get things out of your way so that you can work easily on it, so that you don't have any issues and stuff like that. So, all right. Now what we're going to do is we're going to come back here and we are going to take off this drive shaft right here. It's should be a 7/16 bolt, I do believe. I loosen all of them first. Probably should use a ratchet. Alright, now for the drive shaft, it is a little bit of a tight spot. If you don't have access to putting in neutral, so I don't have a lift. I do all my work, unfortunately, on the ground. Nothing wrong with it, just make sure that you have a comfortable concrete surface to do it from. But what you're going to want to do is have access to the top bolts a little bit easier. And how I do that is with a 1/4 inch ratchet. Maybe a little bit tricky. Have to get a little extension, the universal. How's the weather? It is raining, my man. it is raining. Unfortunately. But it's not too bad. It's not like super raining right now. Enough for me to have the door open and enjoying the weather, I guess. How are you doing on this fine evening there, babe? So that is good. We got all 4 bolts loose. Now I go ahead and take these out, but you gotta make sure you mark them. Alright, so you want to make sure you mark the sides of the drive shaft to the pinion of the axle so that it goes back the same way and so that the caps go back the same way. Because if you don't, it will actually cause an issue with a vibration. And the customer that you just basically worked on their car, you're going to be doing it for free. You don't want to do that. It's pretty cold there, I bet. Yeah, so in North Carolina, it's a little bit different. It is not too bad here. Okay. Now I mark it with a Sharpie, and then I also just make a little scrape. In the cap, as well as on the drive shaft. What that does is it just ensures that I put it in the same exact way. And all your scraping is just the rust. It's got surface rust because GM does a great job of putting some powder coating and stuff like that on it. So now you're good. You can go ahead and take your caps off. Yeah, no worries there, babe. Appreciate you stopping by. I'll be on later. I just gotta get this done while it's nice weather so I can have the garage door out, you know? I think the new map is coming out for PUBG today, later today. So I kind of wanted to get this done and maybe play a little bit of that. Go there. All right, super easy. All right. Now you're just gonna take like a little screwdriver or pry bar. Should just be able to pop the universal joint right out of the socket. Nice. The three last buildings, as far as vehicle enhancements, is that what you're like the enhancement buildings? Okay, yeah. Yeah, those are crucial when you start getting into duels, man. Very crucial. Okay. Just gotta be easy with this so you don't mess up the universal joints. The caps will come off, and they're nothing but needle bearings. So you don't want to really mess around with those. Loose. Yeah, we're good. All right. Don't really want to mess it up. Yeah, the map I think is a 2x2. So like you know how Sandhawk is a 4x4, and that's a really small map. The new one I think is a 2x2. So it's gonna be like incredibly like crazy. I just don't know if they're gonna do like 100 people on that map or not. That would be insane. But okay, so we now have the differential that is separated from the front axle. So that part of it is the only thing literally holding it in other than the bolts that hold it in the axles. So it's super easy. There is a differential tube right here that you just want to take a pair of needle nose and take that off. Just make sure you're careful, because unfortunately it's probably hard rubber and it breaks very easily. You just get some angled needle nose pliers, and should be right here. There's a little tube right here. You just want to take that off. I'll give it a nice little wiggle. Hold pressure on it, give it a nice little wiggle, and then pull up on it. And then it comes off just like that. That's so when you drop the differential that bad boy is just chilling. These, they went around away from electronics, so they're all automatic lockups, so there's no more wires that you got to really disconnect on these. It's literally, the differential just does what it does. There's no wires anywhere else, so it should be just 4 bolts to hold this baby on, and the axles. We'll go ahead and take the axles off now. They're 15 millimeters. Alright, so now we're going to go ahead and take off. Wrong way. We're going to go ahead and take off the axles. So these are going to be a little bit tight. This may be a good time actually to lift up the vehicle, just one side, and that's just so you can rotate the wheels, or both sides, I'm sorry. They're both connected, so you really don't have to. That's just a little extra time and work and stuff like that for me, so I choose not to. If I have to, I'll get an extension and a universal, but I might be okay. Okay, I have to get a shallow. Okay. Now this is going to be the same thing. You do want to mark the position of both sides of the axle. So the part that stays with the actual axle and the other one that goes and connects to the wheel bearing. Okay. Have to have extension. Okay, it's kind of weird. So, as soon as I get this universal joint on here, so it's going to go right through. I'm going to just find an opening to kind of feed it through for the universal. Make sure that you're on the bolt. Which is right there. And then it's going to be a little tight. Just trying to make me tighten it here. Alright, come on, baby. This is where you just give it a little bit of a love talk. Okay. Doesn't like my love talk. Don't think. All right. No, it doesn't like my love talk. Okay. Here we go. Alright, so that side is all loose. And all 6 bolts loose, so we're going to go ahead and take those. Now, once you loosen these, this thing can spin around in a circle. Now this, we do have to do transmission oil cooler lines too, which is really nice because the axle's right here anyways, so just makes it easier to route those, as well as with the oil pan having to drop those anyways, so it kind of works in our favor that they're both kind of the same way. But this one you're going to do the same exact thing. You're going to take a screwdriver, and I just put a V. Just make sure you mark it up so that you know, and I know, that this is exactly the location that you want to put that back. And I'm telling you from experience, if you don't do that, it will mess you up. Alright, so what you want to do with this, you just want to make sure that it's not in the little, it's a little groove it sits in. Just pop it out. It's really easy. You just pull back on it a little bit, and it'll pop right out. So this side is done. We're going to work on this side, get this side done, and then the 4 bolts, and this baby's coming out of here. Now this is, for the most part, Escalades are just like Tahoes. They have the same style. So these are all similar. The only difference is that these and the transfer case are different. Transfer case doesn't really make a difference with the style. It is up front here though. The style up front here is whether or not it's auto, all-wheel drive, or if it's a locker. So the locker means that you switch from 2-wheel drive, 4-wheel drive. It's a 4-wheel drive or all-wheel drive. The difference too is like this one. This is all-time all-wheel drive, so it always has access to all-wheel drive. It's not a 4-wheel drive, or it's not a all-wheel drive that you can select. There's a lot that you can, different style. This particular model, it has a all-time all-wheel drive, so there is no getting out of all-wheel drive. You are in it. Some people didn't like that because they were like, "Oh, you're always using all-wheel drive," but it is what it is. When you're living up north or anything like that, you don't really want to deal with having to switch it out. Okay. All right. Okay, so this one is going to need a little extension, love. We're going to use a different extension this time. Okay, perfect size. Just got to give it a little love, and then it'll loosen up. So all 6 bolts here are good. Okay. Keep bolts separated from side to side too. Bolt location holes, these are all the same bolts, so don't really need to worry about it. You don't have to like mark them if you don't want to. Same thing, just pop it loose so it's out of the groove. So when you take these 4 bolts down, you're good. Now this thing is a little heavy. I think just for convenience sake, I am going to take this middle cross member out. I don't think you have to necessarily, but I am going to, because it's only me, and I'd rather not deal with a really heavy axle. Okay, that is looks like a 19. All I'm doing is I drain the oil. It's all out, so I'm just going to put the drain plug bolt back in. You just finger tight it. You don't have to tighten it back up. And so you're ready. Put everything back together. Alright, so getting this off. Okay. Now, what I'm going to do is clean up some of this oil. It's all over the place down here, so that it doesn't drip on my head, because I hate oil dripping on your head. So just clean up everything best you can get it, just the big spots. That's all you need. Okay. All that is a nut and bolt that goes through. Just take it off, put it together. The next one, you just want to leave that one loose until you get the other side. So go ahead and take this off. So just leave it in the hole for now until you get the other side off. And what we're looking at is right here. It's just a cross member. So again, you take one out, put it together if you want. And the other one, you can just leave that one in the hole and easily pull it out. there's that. Then this baby, it might take a little bit of effort actually. Where is pry bar? The world. Started moving now. They're pretty form fitted in this thing, so. And it's been sitting in here for 170,000 miles, so it doesn't, you know, its whole life is like, I want to be in here. So, all right. Go ahead and just take that back there. Okay. All right, so that is what we got now. So all we have to do is take 4 bolts loose, and then we should be able to weasel this axle around this little block here of metal pretty easily. Not too bad. So we're gonna go ahead and take these loose. I loosen one side, and then the other side I kind of keep. Should be I think it's a 21 or 22. Appreciate that there, Bacon. Okay. Oh, that's not. Oh, this. So I just take one out completely, or you can just leave it loose. Take it out. Just as long as it holds it up while you deal with the other side. The other side is a 19. So we're going to go ahead, pop that. Okay. Okay, so you can either do it 2 ways. It is heavy. So it's like, shit, I don't even know. It's like maybe 60, 70 pounds or so, I think. You could use a jack if you wanted to. It might be a little easier to do that. Folded the baby and pulled it out. And that's what I'm probably going to do. Yeah, whatever. We'll get the jack just in case. Better be safe than sorry, you know? I have seen guys drop these off of lifts. They don't work right afterwards, so you gotta make sure you don't drop it. Go ahead and scoop my gun. Now I'm only doing this just to unsecure the one bolt, and then I should be able to grab it and just bring it off of the lift. If not, my wife's upstairs. I'll have her help me move the jack or whatnot. Okay, so we got that part, and that's just chilling on there holding support. So we're gonna go ahead and take this bolt out, and then it should be ready for this. Okay, so that bolt's out. Go ahead and move our gun over here. And then, now we want to loosen this bolt, and then we want to see if we can get this baby to come down. This passenger side, you want that to drop below the axle so that you can shift everything towards the passenger side. Is the way that you usually get these out. So we're going to let this down just a little bit. So I might want to be on that side. Off the jack. Okay. That you guys can see. Now, what you want to do is put the jack down just a little bit more, just like that, just so that you can get, hopefully, this little axle over top of the actual axle, because it's got to shift this way. So what you want to do, you want to go ahead and try and walk it this way, just like so, and hopefully your half shafts don't pop out or anything like that. And then you, turn it in here, just like so. That thing is trying to mess with me here. Keep lowering the jack if you can. Lowering the jack is going to be your friend. Just like so. We got more to go. Okay. And guys, this is like a very, very fragile process. So it doesn't matter if you take all the time in the world. Take as much as you possibly need, because unfortunately, these things are expensive if you drop them. And just like so, you have an axle. Well, front differential, whatever you want to call it. Alright, so you can just basically walk this. It is heavy, like I said, so it's like 60, 70 pounds or something like that. And then now you just want to kind of move it out of the way. Super easy, guys. Alright, move your jack. Now, if you look, you have amazing access to the whole oil pan right here. And that's what our goal is to get access to this thing so that we can make a clean repair and we don't have to worry about it coming back to us. You know, we do it once, do it right the first time, and that's all we have to worry about. So, and like I said, so this customer I have told me that it was the rear main seal. And they said, hey, Cadillac, like, wasn't even an independent shop, guys. It was Cadillac. Alright, so I hate to like fight the dealerships or whatnot, but like it's one of those things, it's like the technicians have to be accountable for what they're doing. But if you look, there's a little peephole right here. And that is something that they literally could have taken 5 minutes out of their time. I'll get it for you. Hang on for 1 second. So I just put it up in the air last night, and this is the little cover. Okay, cover goes right here. Pops right on a little flat bladed screwdriver. Just pops this thing right off, and you could have easily seen the rear main seal is not even leaking. But they told her that because they wanted, like, I don't even know, probably $1,500, $2,000, whatever the repair would be, just for that repair. So that's why I feel bad, but you guys got to be careful when you take it to the dealership, because they just want the money. They just want you to be like, hey, yeah, I'll drop $2,000 on it, no problem. And unfortunately, people do that all the time. I worked in dealerships and kind of hated that aspect of it because technicians recommend stuff, and I was smart enough to know that it didn't need it, so I would tell them, hey, what's up, dude? Like, why are you recommending this? But it was just little old me. I couldn't do anything. So, but yeah. So now I'm going to take the well pan off. Super simple. Now that we got everything out of our way. Let's see how this comes down. Pops loose, but maybe not. It's weird. It's like a little cover. That's cool. All right. So there's a little plastic cover. Just take a little flat bladed screwdriver. There's little clips that holds the conduit into it. I think you just take that off. Gives you access to it, I think. Let's check. Thought it was probably a bolt that holds it on, and it probably is at some point, but I don't really see where. But I think it's underneath of the wire. I think the corners are the worst. Just getting those to come towards the middle. so that you have room. Okay, I see it's actually two 10 millimeter bolts. Okay. Alright, so there is a 10 millimeter bolt up there. That is where you're going to want to take that off. The little 10 millimeter bolt holds that little plastic bracket of wires on there. So go ahead and just loosen that. Should be one on the other side, I would think. Usually fairly symmetrical with GM. Okay, I totally thought I was loosening that bolt. That wasn't. Okay, just a little 10 millimeter bolt. That pulls that side down. This side should be the same way, I would think. Okay, so once you pull the 10 millimeter bolt out, you just go and pull this plastic towards the driver's side. There's a little indent right there. Just sits in the hole. There's no bolt. Then you have access. This wiring is loose so that you have access to the bolt holes for the oil pan. And other than that, it's time to start taking the oil pan off. There is nothing else really blocking us from getting to it. There is a bracket here for the oil cooler lines. We're going to go ahead and take that off so that we have a little bit more access to the bolts, and we got to take the oil cooler lines off anyway. So we go ahead and loosen this. That's going to be another 10 millimeter. I'm going to get a wrench for that. Okay. And these are transmission oil coolers. So it's not the engine oil, it is the transmission. And then there is a sensor that we just have to pop. Now this one, I'll actually show you guys because it's a little bit tricky. So your sensor sits right there and it gets connected. There's a connector. So there's a nice little hole right there that you just take a little flat bladed screwdriver. Just make sure you're easy and just pull and just pry against the little thing and it'll pop right out. Don't break it. So don't try and like just pull and yank on it. It'll pop out very easily. But that you just want to get that out so that when you pull the old pan down, you don't have any issues. I don't think we really have to do the starter, but I'm going to clean up everything. Unfortunately, it's a disaster up there. Okay. And then they are all 10mm bolts. So just get you a nice extension with a 10mm stuff. Now, just so you all know, GM is known for this. Their bolts come loose. And this is one of those times that it's exactly what happens. Is that these bolts for the oil pan, some of them are loose. And that's what's causing the oil pan to leak. It shouldn't really leak. I did tell the customer here that we're going to replace it because of how bad it's been leaking for quite some time. Just because I didn't want it to be gasket warpage. But that's, if you start noticing seepage and stuff like that, you just want to make sure that the bolts are tight. Most likely they're going to be loose, and that's what's causing oil to seep out. Another thing that, as far as maintenance, that you can do to prevent stuff like this is the PCV valve. It's your crankcase ventilation. What it does is, if that valve is not working correctly, it'll cause too much pressure, and the pressure is what will destroy seals and gaskets. So make sure that you are always keeping up on that, and that's a normal maintenance thing that the dealership will probably recommend, but they recommend it usually when things start leaking. They don't really proactively maintain them like they should, even though it's in the owner's manual to replace them at certain intervals. So, but many people don't know that little valve will cause nightmares, especially older vehicles. As they start getting to the end of their life, or they're just many miles on them and people still want to run them. It's one of those things that you definitely want to take notice of. If you guys notice, we didn't have to do anything from the top. This is all a bottom repair. So you want to make sure you have nice access to the bottom of the vehicle. I did get ramps from the auto parts store, and that's what it is on right now. Technically could do this whole job on ramps if you're strong enough to pull the axle out without a jack, or if you have a second helper and stuff like that. So ramps definitely save it. You don't have to jack up the suspension or anything like that. Just put it on ramps, and it gives you enough clearance to go up underneath of it and lay on the ground and enjoy some nice ground time. Now for these, you can do air if you want. You know, the electric stuff. I always prefer manual tools because I can always feel the torque. I've done it for years, so like if I'm over torquing, tightening, that sort of thing, like I can feel it. So that's why I don't use air stuff as much. I have started getting into my electric DeWalt half-inch, but I decided for most stuff I don't. I usually try and steer away from it, so just wanted to let you guys know personal preference. Most mechanics are going to tell you that. Now, if you're fighting something and you don't have a tendency to break something on a repair with it, and you've done it before, by all means, you know, do whatever's fastest. Technicians fight labor time guides, so they want to basically beat what they can do it. The average technician can do it in, so they use all these fancy dancy tools when they wind up messing things up. So yeah, they might have beat it on that repair, but they gotta come back because something that they did, and they're tearing it all back apart. So that's why I've always used, you know, mechanical tools, and not air, not electric, power tools. So, but that is me. That's my personal preference. There's unfortunately a lot of bolts on the oil pan. It's secured pretty well, so. And once you loosen, you want to make sure that you keep one or two, at least just loosen while you loosen the other ones, so that you're not dropping the oil pan when you're not ready. Well, that's what I am doing. I got one loose. The other ones just need to come off. There's a little dust cover. I'm pretty sure we have to take that off. Just pop that loose. It's a little 10mm bolt. Little plastic cover. Unfortunately, my tools definitely are going to need a bath after this one. There is bell housing bolts you're going to have to take 2 of them off in the back here. Okay. I don't think you have to take the starter off, but I'm checking that right now, just to make sure. Pretty sure the starter is put into the block, but it could be wrong. Straight up. Okay. Let's say we have to. I do believe. Pretty sure there's a bolt underneath of there. Just can't see it. So I popped that cover loose, so we're gonna go ahead and take the starter out. Gotta disconnect the battery. Make sure that the battery is gonna be a 10mm. And some of them have 2 batteries. So make sure, whatever style you have, that you disconnect both of them if you have 2. This one has 2 batteries, however, one is not connected, so you only have to disconnect the one. Okay, got the battery disconnected. Now the starter, we should be good to go. Starter, I think, is a 13 or a 15. One up for 2. Okay. I think that's a 13. Not a 15. Hey, what? That's weird. Oh. Because I had 2 15s. That'll do it. Okay. There's that bolt. And then we have one more over here. Now the starter you're just going to take out of the socket. You're not going to necessarily have to disconnect all the wires. You should just be able to pop it out of the socket. Enough to get the one oil pan bolt I think that's hiding in the corner. Okay, got our second starter bolt. Now what I do is I put all the bolts on the ground for now. I'm going to clean them up when I go put everything back in. So it's not a critical thing at the moment, but it will be. Okay, I was actually completely wrong. We don't have to take the starter out on this one. So, just got 2 bell housing bolts left to do. We're going to go ahead and pop those loose. Starter can just chill right there. So you don't have to take it out. No, bell housing bolts, they're 15s. And you don't have to take all of them, just the ones that connect into the oil pan. Should just be 2. This is yet again another oil cooler bracket. It's on the bell housing, so it's going to have to go back on the bell housing. You just want to make sure those oil cooler lines are secure. A lot of times what happens is they have too much movement and the compression joints will fail. That's what this one did. So it's really important to, wherever it goes, or if it comes out, it's got to go back in. Alright, we got this one here. Okay. Even glasses don't help save you sometimes. It is super important to wear glasses. I have to take this one power steering line. This is where things are unfortunately going to get messy in your garage. I'm gonna have to take the power steering line off. Man, I was not hoping to do all of that. Let's just snug one bolt back up so she can't come down on you. And you'll be alright. Okay. And then that line right there has to come out, which is kind of strange. Where's the other one go to? Right there. Damn. It definitely has to come out though. sure you get a drain pan, and then go ahead and pop this line out. Unfortunately. What is that? 10. I think it's a 10. We'll go ahead and loosen that right there. Ooh. Okay, come on now. Ratchet didn't want to stay in my hands. Okay, come on, baby. Why are you not being nice? You dick. Alright. It's not being lovely. in the world? Damn thing's oh my gosh. It's trying to steal my socket. And it was like, nope, it's not good enough. Just gonna put in the oil. Alright. Let's try it again. I only need the one. Only other option is jacking it up, and I don't really feel like jacking it up. Nope. That is definitely not the way to do it. I guess this is another one that you gotta fucking jack the engine up. It doesn't say anything about that. I wonder if maybe I gotta go this way. Come on, baby. Come to pop. What in the world is going on? Like it doesn't have anywhere to really go forward either. It's kind of strange. Like nowhere to go forward. Nowhere to go. Before I break this thing, take this off. Just in case. I'm thinking I'm gonna have to take those babies off. I'm scared of taking those off. Right now it just doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. There's nowhere to go forward at all. So that back in front will come down. That's what's strange. Huh. Why are you telling me? Why are you telling me one thing? Nice, we can just like tilt, twist, turn, somewhere. But it's not. It don't want to help a brother out. That's literally where it's stuck. It's
It's like right up front. It's just not able to get over that damn line. Unfortunately. Maybe I'll take these off. Maybe see there's something there. That may be the line. Oh! Yeah. Okay. Maybe the line will go in there. Such a nice view. Okay, let's try taking this bad boy off. And then once this cover's off, maybe this will be the reason that it comes out. That would be super sweet. Please be the answer. I mean, it's kind of like one of those things. It's like, why is this covered here? Maybe that's why. Or it's going to be something I have to put back together when I take it apart. Either way, we're going to win. I feel it. Okay. Got that out. Now, put this, take this cover. Okay, what the fuck? Well, that doesn't make it any better. Or does it? What in the world? It's still sticking. It's definitely that line. Oh, line, oh, line, oh, line, oh, line. Doesn't say this. And the proper repair procedures. So what is going on here? Okay. Yep, there you go. Oh, that's the way that we're gonna get it out of here. Uh-oh. Come on, baby. What in the hell is going on? Uh-oh. I'm pretty sure. I don't even know what that is. What is going on here? Oh, oh, there. Did it go? There it went. Oh, we got the wool pin out. This has to go around that bad boy. That's all. It's one of those babies. All right. Well. Okay. Now we're good there. We're done for a little bit. Got to clean up our tools. Crazy cats coming outside. All right. All right. So now we have gotten it off. It's just chilling right there. Best thing you can do, get a lot of cleaner, and you're gonna have to actually clean off the oil pan. The oil pan gasket is actually riveted. So if you look, there's a little rivet right there. This is a GM rivet,
So this is the factory oil pan gasket. And in order to replace this, you're going to have to actually take that rivet off. And there's one more right there. So there's two of them. You're going to have to drill those out. You don't have to actually put those back in. You just have to take the rivets out. So that's what the next procedure is to clean this up, get the old gasket off, and then when the new one comes in, we're going to go ahead and put it back in. But like I said, you don't have to re-rivet it back in with the new one. So thanks for tuning in, and we'll be ready for part 2.